The Allied Control Council met regularly in Berlin. Usually, as here, the proceedings followed a well-worn path. The American General Clay and his Western partners exchanged routine information with their Soviet counterparts. But on March 20th, 1948, Sokolovsky wanted more.
He spoke in a very tactful and polite fashion, in a very restrained way. He said, "Could you please fill us in? Tell us what happened at the meeting in London." Clay replied that they weren't going to look into it. Sokolovsky then asked what was the point of having a control council if they were not going to tell us what went on in London, and if they kept secret from us the various issues concerning Germany. Have we or haven't we got a control council?
The Russian just stood up, and he had about 5 or 6 of them on the left and the right of him, and they just walked out, which was not called for, because when they closed the meeting, it was always done in a professional manner. And the general just told everybody to stay put, because the meeting wasn't over.
The former Allies provoked each other. The West had no intention of budging from Berlin, but knew the Soviets wanted them out. They feared Stalin might risk war to achieve it. The Western Allies planned a currency reform in their zones. It would wipe out black market profiteers by making old currency valueless, and it would tie Germans to the West. The Russians weren't told. May Day 1948. In the Soviet zone, Stalin had merged the Socialist and Communist parties. The new grouping, the Socialist Unity Party, was out in strength. There was even a sideswipe at Winston Churchill. For the demonstrators, the real target was the city council, the Magistrat, which wanted to run all Berlin on Western lines.
The majority of the Berlin City Council, supported by the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats, believed that with currency reform there would be an immediate upturn in the economy. In particular, there would be increased investment by entrepreneurs. On the other hand, the Socialist Unity Party councillors saw it as a threat to the still incomplete nationalization of property which had belonged to the big companies, to war criminals, and to Nazi Party members. Generally, to all those whom the Socialist Unity Party blamed for supporting Hitler in 1933.
The stage was set for confrontation between the Socialist Unity Party and their pro-Western opponents. These were led by Ernst Reuter, whose family had once been forced to flee from Hitler. His election as mayor of all Berlin had been vetoed by the Russians.
Es allen klar wurde, dass der kommunistische Diktaturwille jedes Mittel benutzen wird, seine Macht im Schatten des russischen Imperialismus aufzurichten, da haben wir in Berlin.
It was a very tense atmosphere again, full of possibilities that the Russians would try to enforce their power in that part of the country, in the city of Berlin, of course, that maybe the family again would have to flee from dictatorship.
West Germans lined up for their new money, the Deutschmark. Each person could exchange 40 marks and only 40 marks. All other old money was worthless. The Soviets retaliated by issuing their own new currency, which they insisted would include all of Berlin.
Currency and political power were synonymous at that time. And therefore it was so important that the Western currency, the D-Mark, had to be introduced into West Berlin and not the Eastern German currency.
General Clay and the Western Allies were persuaded by Ernst Reuter to issue the new Deutschmark in West Berlin. The new Deutschmark, stamped with a B for Berlin, was introduced in the western sectors on June the 23rd. There were now two currencies in the city. Berliners discovered that the Western D-marks were worth more.
Many people from the West frequently traveled to the East and of course bought up what they could. East marks and West marks, if you can call them that, were usually 1 to 7 or 1 to 5. That is, we got 7 or 5 East German marks for 1 West mark. And as we found out later, it was a sellout, at least around Berlin.
The introduction of the new Western currency in Berlin infuriated the Soviets, who debated what to do next.
Sokolovsky picked up the special phone and rang Molotov. He said, "We're discussing these matters. What shall we do?" We all understood the seriousness of the situation. Molotov replied, "You're not planning to bring tanks out into the streets, are you?" Sokolovsky said, "No, not in the streets, but I'll move them closer to Berlin." "No, don't do that," Molotov said. "Let's wait a bit. If you bring in the tanks, you'll be accused of planning to seize the whole of Berlin, and they will bring out their tanks. It's better to resolve this issue by using diplomatic language."
The Soviets blocked all major road, rail and canal links between West Berlin and Western Germany. They made no concerted effort to seal every route, but delivery of the 12,000 tons of food and coal normally supplied by the West to Berlin every day was now impossible.